Yep.
You're live, Ted.
Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Ted Sands, the chairman of
Hold on, wait, Ted, hold on, sorry.
We're gonna give them, let's give them about a minute to fill in.
We have to give people a minute to come in.
Just started, so we're about, we got 9 now.
Okay.
Kevin, I'm wearing this earpiece and it works better. Is it making a problem for either of you?
No.
Perfect. Go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
Mr. Sands, I think you're okay.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ted Sands, chairman of the Board of Ed's Operations and Finance Committee, and I will chair the meeting tonight. The purpose of this meeting is to elicit ideas and suggestions for things to be considered in the budget for next year for the Board of Ed. Historically, this has been a source of very good ideas for the Board of Ed, and we're very eager for this meeting. I want to emphasize that the purpose of this meeting is for us to listen to members of the Guilford community and listen to their ideas. The Board of Ed will not be making any decisions tonight, and we will not be engaging in any dialogue back and forth or arguments about the merits of this proposal or that proposal. We're just trying to get the ideas. I want to emphasize that we're focused on the budget. We are here to listen. We are not going to talk about the upcoming election. We're not going to talk about the mascot for the high school. We're not going to talk about the culture wars. We're going to talk about the budget. Now, we expect a large number of participants, and therefore we want to limit each participant to 3 minutes so that there's time for everybody to get their ideas across. So with these ground rules, let's go ahead and start the presentations. And would each presenter please state their name and their address here in Guilford so that the secretary can keep the minutes. Who's first?
Get in queue.
Say that again.
If the participants name and address in the Q&A function, that will form a queue, and our secretary will be able to take their names down from the queue, and then Kevin will elevate those people who want to speak to panelists for their 3 minutes.
Okay.
Hey,
Do I need to say
yeah.
that? Absolutely. Hi, sorry. This is Katie Balistraci. I'm the Board of Ed Chair. Just letting people know, if you are interested in addressing the board tonight, I'm going to ask you to enter your name and address into the chat function.
Q&A.
Sorry, the Q&A, my apologies, the Q&A function. We will note as your name and address comes in, we will then know who to call upon.
The speakers will be elevated to panelists, which means that their cameras will need to be on and they will be visible by those viewing the meeting.
Okay, and so as you enter your name and address into the Q&A, you will be called upon. You will be invited into the meeting. We ask that you put your video on. The board of members are here with our videos on as well. And then you will be invited to speak.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're gonna go with Tim and Jessica Hansen.
Tim and Jessica Hansen.
video.
Hi, can you hear me?
Start video.
We can hear them. Yep, there you
Yes,
go.
we can.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, so my name's Tim. My wife is Jessica. I'm also here with my son, Alex. We've been Guilford residents for 16 years or so. Alex is an entering freshman. I was part of the parents group several years ago who came to speak to the board about funding for the boys and girls swim teams. And I'm very happy and encouraged by the success over the past few years of the girls team, and the boys swimmers have been involved in a 3-town co-op that's had also a very positive experience. I appreciate the willingness of the board and at that time to dedicate some funds to this. And, you know, while there have been several positive steps that have been made, the reality is that parents still carry a significant financial burden for things such as bus transportation, pool time, and coaching. And the boys, you know, do not yet have a freestanding team or a standalone team. I was part of a Brantford High School swim program that was well recognized in the state. We won several state championships. Some of my best memories from high school surround that experience. Swimming is a uniquely individual sport. You can clearly see your own personal progress through hard work, and you're rewarded for that hard work almost, you know, very perceptively. There's also a team aspect to it that is most clearly recognized, I think, in high school swimming, because you're part of a team that's representing your town, representing your school, going head to head against other teams and towns and competing for state championships. The benefits of the sport are well documented for the physical health, the emotional well-being, academic success. It teaches work ethic and determination. Guilford is a top public school system in the state, and statewide, it's one of the only ones that does not have a full swim program. And you know, I understand budgeting is difficult every year, especially in these times with COVID. But I would like to request that we not lose sight pursuing programs that will greatly benefit our kids. And I think right now we have a very eager and very talented group of boys and girls swimmers that can serve as the foundation for you know, great things to come. And if you don't mind, I'd also like to have, my wife would like to read a short letter from Senator Christine Cohen.
Is there time?
We have about 20 seconds.
Oh, so should I just go back in the queue? Christine asked me to read her letter.
If I may, if Christine Cohen also emailed us,
Okay.
Mr. Sands, do you think it would be appropriate to give Jessica extra time since she is representing another constituent speaking to us
Yes.
today?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, I know she emailed you, but she wanted it read for the public.
No. That's why I'm suggesting it seems appropriate for you to certainly do so now. Thank you.
Okay. To our esteemed Board of Education members, I am unable, this is Christine Cohen, I'm unable to be with you in person for the first of the public budget forum, so please accept this letter. In my stead, many of you are quite familiar with the history of swimming at Guilford High School. Over the past several years, we have been fortunate enough to see a brand new girls swim team grow and thrive. Subsequently, there was significant interest in forming a standalone boys team. However, last year there was a terrific opportunity for those interested on being on a Guilford High School boys swim team to join a cooperative arrangement with the towns of North Haven, East Haven, and North Brantford. This has turned into a great chance for our boys to meet new swimmers, compete in a higher CIAC class, and engage in fantastic camaraderie as a large team. The agreement was entered into for 2 years, and we are entering our second of that arrangement. Unfortunately, this year brings a lot of uncertainty amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, as we await word as to whether or not these Guilford boys will have the opportunity to swim as a co-op team. There is, in all likelihood, the inability for those boys who are not students of North Haven, Guilford, to practice in the pool as they did last year. The virus has brought about new challenges and restrictions and the unfortunate possibility of a lost season. It is for this reason that I believe it is more important than ever that a Guilford High School boys standalone team be considered. As such, I would respectfully ask for your budgetary consideration of the same to include pool rental, transportation, coach funding. Should a co-op be discussed and agreed upon once again, these funds would still be required. I have attached my, this just says I've attached my letter from last year. All the best, Christine Cohen.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Who's next?
Danielle Scarpolino is next.
Okay.
There's nothing else in the queue after that, Katie.
Hello?
Can you bring it up?
Yeah,
she's coming in.
Okay, so with all due respect, Mr. Sands, you prefaced this meeting by stating some rules and guidelines that were not stated prior. I actually submitted what I'd be reading to Amy Sullivan, and she said that it would be totally fine to read the letter I wrote, which sort of conflicts with what you said the subject matter would be. So I would respectfully ask that you allow me to read my letter in spite of what you suggested the topic would be, even though it is still geared towards the budget.
If your letter is geared towards the budget, then go ahead and read it.
Thank you. My name is Danielle Scarpolino. I have 3 children in the school system. I request no additional funding be put towards Paul Friedman's quote goal of the last 3 years to elevate and educate Guilford on its whiteness. As many experts will agree, whiteness studies and the theory of white fragility collapse as a matter of logic. Although whiteness studies may genuinely strive for equality and social justice, the reality is that the discipline is having unintended side effects on schools in America. These side effects manifest themselves in many different ways. I'm not going to read the actual ways because it's going to go past my time limit. You'll just have to, maybe I can submit it through email. I also request no additional funding be invested in the school's current anti-racist ideology, which Paul Freeman describes as, quote, the same approach as critical race theory and the 1619 Project. This divisive and polarizing approach is unproven, unscientific, and uses inaccurate historical fact, and most disturbingly claims that all whites are inherently racist and that all Blacks are oppressed. Books like White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo and How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi are just 2 examples of books that Paul Friedman has invested in and has disclosed are currently in our library and will most likely be assigned to our students for classroom discussion and assignments. These books do not create forums for critical thinking. The dogma is espoused and white students are supposed to listen and agree. And if they are brave enough to challenge or express a differing viewpoint, then they suffer from white fragility. DiAngelo herself says niceness is not anti-racist. This ideology is meant to do nothing more than provoke, agitate, and shock whites out of their, quote, privilege. It's about accusations, chastising, and lambasting students with labels such as fragile, privileged, oppressed, or racist. I have firsthand experience of this kind of treatment. A Guilford High School student started a petition to cancel Danielle Scarpolino. I was even rudely dismissed and silenced by Paul Friedman himself and denied any further meetings with him. After our first meeting, when I expressed my concern over his leadership and choice of communication on these very sensitive racial matters. If the superintendent of Guilford Public Schools can't have an adult conversation with a concerned parent, how do you expect our children to? I request no more funds be invested in unproven, unscientific, anti-racist ideology for teacher and administrative training, such as seminars, conventions, public appearances by anti-racist or whiteness experts, or any other means in the development of more anti-racist and whiteness propaganda, such as Hassan Jeffries' inspired hard history ideology. Jeffries' TED Talks was referenced and endorsed by Paul Freeman in his latest newsletter. Hassan Jeffries is the nephew of the disgraced Leonard Jeffries, who was fired from his SUNY chair position for his racist and anti-Semitic public rants. In the video disseminating from Guilford Public Schools communications, Jeffries comments, quote, "Wasn't trying to upset any white people because when this was over, I wanted to make sure I could get out," referencing the basement in which Black children had been enslaved by whites, was offensive to hundreds of Guilford parents, and yet was characterized as a joke by Paul Freeman. I request that funding do go towards important and necessary resources that will provide critical reviews and opposing viewpoints of Paul Freeman's current Hassan Jeffries inspired hard history direction. Resources such as supplemental literature, training, or any lectures or events from scholars and experts, such as the American academic and associate professor of English and comparative literature at Columbia University, John McWhorter. McWhorter, who is Black, criticizes these teachings and argues that it talks down to Black people and simply dehumanizes us. I request funding go towards any supplemental curriculum aids that will provide different and critical viewpoints to our current direction, such as 1776 Unites. 1776 Unites is a project of the Woodson Center, a movement to shape the American future by drawing on the best of its past. Radically pragmatic and unapologetically patriotic, it speaks for Americans of all races, creeds, and political convictions who oppose the efforts to demoralize and demonize our country and its foundation from within. And it turns its people against one another with false history and grievances politics. 1776 Unites represents a nonpartisan and intellectually diverse alliance of hundreds of thousands of writers, thinkers, and activists focused on solutions to our
Getting
country.
close.
I'm almost done.
Come on, let's go.
Excuse me?
3 minutes is the limit.
I'm glad this is public, Mr. Sands, because I can see this is a sensitive subject and we clearly can't even discuss it, but you expect our children to. But it dissents from contemporary groupthink and rhetoric about race, class, and American history that defames our national heritage, divides our people, and instills helplessness among those who already hold within themselves the grit and resilience to better their lot in life. I'd like to thank the board for their time and attention. The fear of funding specific sensitive material without proper due diligence can cost the town not only on the educational side, but also could compromise the town in prospective lawsuits. And more importantly, it may cost the town irreparable emotional divide that goes beyond any budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Dr. Val Tracy, the chair. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Again, if you would like to address the board, you can put your name and address in the Q&A section of the Zoom meeting at the bottom of your screen. We've had 2 speakers. At the moment, there is no one else in the queue, but we welcome others to address the board on any comments around the budget that they would like us to consider.
I'm seeing that.
Yeah, so again, we're noting that there are a number of participants. Certainly people are allowed to come and just listen. But again, I just want to make sure that if anyone is interested in addressing the Board of Ed tonight with thoughts about our budget for next year, things you want the board to consider, requests you have, this would be the time again to put your name and address in the Q&A at the bottom of the Zoom meeting. We can then call on you and bring you up. Okay, Mr. Sands, I'm actually not seeing anyone else in the queue.
Do you want to summarize the emails we've received?
Yeah, so
We just got another speaker.
oh,
We I'll ask for full name and address.
Christine, oh, so we have another speaker. I have Christine Latiad. I may have mispronounced your name. My sincere apologies. Christine?
Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Of course, this only happens for Board of Ed meetings. My video goes out. Anyway, thank you for the time. I just want to ensure, I know that many of us from Calvin Leap, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Calvin Leap PTO, Calvin Leap community, or some in the Calvin Leap community, and myself as a Guilford Public School parent, have been for 13 years. And I think I need to state my address or
Yes,
no? Yeah.
Yes,
So
please.
6 Polbridge Lane in Guilford, Connecticut. So I unfortunately missed a part of the beginning of the budget discussions, but I just wanted to state for the record that we would like to see, I know that Dr. Freeman has spoken in the past about having an ombudsman, but we would like to see in next year's budget some type of a full-time or at least part-time position dedicated to diversity, or a position that is dedicated to addressing diversity, lack of diversity, bias issues, and things of the like. I just wanted to state it for the record. I think we've sent you a couple of emails, but wanted to state it at this meeting. So in next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your input. Katie, we got anybody else in our queue?
We do. Clarice Yasahara?
Excellent.
Hi, thank you for the time. I'm also in the Calvin Leap school system, and I am also a commissioner at the Guilford Human Rights. And we are, well, I should say I am in support of Dr. Freeman's hard history curriculum. I think it is something that needs to be addressed. It is beneficial to the social emotional being of everybody. I was a little late to the meeting because I was actually watching Principal Slowly's YouTube channel where she was reading a book to the children that she received today from a student that entitled All Are Welcome Here. And that is the spirit that Calvin Leap is embracing, and that I believe our school system needs to embrace. And I applaud Principal Slowly, and I applaud Dr. Freeman for their efforts in making this a priority, because it is something that is needed in this town. It's something that affects us a lot. Those of us that aren't originally from Guilford. And so I think this is beneficial to all students, and it should start at the elementary school level, and it should proceed all the way through to high school. This is, books entitled like All Are Welcome Here. It was just a beautiful book with and the illustrations as well. And that's the kind of thing that I want my son and my daughter eventually, when she gets of school age, to know, because they are of Japanese descent. And when it comes to learning about, when it comes to learning about the for Harbor, I want them to know that there was another side to it. And it's something that they need to learn, you know, not just from home, but it needs to be something that everybody is aware of, both sides of the story. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, Susan Miller is up next.
Let's see in the middle lines with that.
Hello?
We are looking, yeah, I see it, Kevin, it's right down the bottom. Right there. Susan Miller's coming in now.
Can you see me, hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you. I don't think your camera is turned on.
Okay, let me see. Okay, now you can see me. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Miller, 73 Fair Street, Guilford. And I wanted to let the board and Mr. Freeman know that I have submitted a letter also. I'm not reading it tonight. I would ask that you read and review the letter that I wrote. I support Danielle Scarpolino's position on putting money in the budget for the stated supporting materials for the 2016 social studies curriculum. I have suggested, and Danielle has also suggested, some alternative materials that are much more uniting and welcoming to all kids within the Guilford Public School system. The selection of the materials, I know the Board of Ed has to vote on. So if you read my letter, you'll find that there are some very disturbing facts around the 1619 project and the similar materials that have already been, I guess, circulated to some of the teachers, white privilege in particular, and Mr. Jeffries in particular. So I would hope that if we're trying to you know, have our children be all inclusive, that we would also be inclusive by demonstration with the Board of Education and the Superintendent of Schools by including other materials that are also proven to be fact-based as well as backed up by scholars and historians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sands, the next person up is Donald Cottrell.
Okay. Let's see what Donald has to say. Hello?
There's definitely a dramatic pause between being introduced and seeing yourself led into the meeting and your video and your audio come up. It's
okay, well, we do see and hear you now, so why don't you go ahead?
I only have a brief set of comments, largely going to be less than a minute, I'd say. I also support the idea of a full-time position in the Guilford school systems to address diversity and inclusion. I think it's very important for our youth and how they're preparing themselves, and we as a community are preparing them for the real world out there. There's a lot of diversity that we don't always see in and around town. I'd also like to tie this together to previous discussions we've had about art curriculum in the schools. I believe these two items are closely tied together. I'd mentioned just offhand Pablo Picasso's Guernica painting one of the well-known anti-war paintings ever produced. Sometimes the most poignant communications we can make regarding delicate, hot topic issues is through art. Anything we can do to support that, I think, is very valuable. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
I do not see anyone else
Anyone else in the queue?
in the queue. So again, in case participants have joined, I remind you, if you are interested in addressing the board with a request regarding or consideration of the budget for next year, I invite you to put your name and address into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will identify you and invite you to present your comment to us. There is no one in the queue as of now. So again, I open that invitation.
Well, it does make us nostalgic for when we used to do this at the Adams Choir Room, and we'd have 100 or 150 people there. And in an in-person setting, it seemed to encourage people to come forward to the mic. But
yeah, Mr. Sands, I will note, if I may, that we did receive some emails. The board did receive some emails with regards to requests for people who couldn't be here. I note as I go through the emails, there are at least 3 emails asking for either a continuation of the artists in residence at the elementary schools or requesting full-time art teachers at each of the elementary schools. And I note we did receive an email as well asking the board to consider a full-time position for someone to be overseeing diversity and inclusion. I don't know if other board members received communications that that aren't covered by.
well, I received several emails relating to the art curriculum and particularly the Artist in Residence program. They were all supportive of that program and realized that this is going to be a difficult budget year for us, but asked that we continue that program in next year's budget. So we will take that those requests under consideration.
All right. Well, I think, Mr. Sands, if I may, I will make the invitation one more time to anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the board. Again, you can put your name and address in the Q&A, and we'll wait a second to see if anyone would choose to do that. If not, that may be the end of the meeting for tonight.
Katie, I just
Yes.
wanted to add, in terms of correspondence, I received an email tonight that I did forward to the full board, but it was right before the meeting, and it was another parent in support of the boys' high school swim team, very much in line with the input we got tonight.
Thank you, Maureen.
All right, Mr. Sands, I'm not seeing anyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Now there is someone. Polly Reeder.
Holly's mic appears to be muted or disconnected, Katie.
Polly, unfortunately, we're not seeing. it looks like perhaps your mic is either disconnected or not on. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
I can't see her.
It's because she's not speaking. It's not recognizing any sound.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately, we still can't hear you. Is your mic disconnected?
Looks like it's doing that now.
I'm sorry, am I on now?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. My name is Polly Reeder. I just wanted to speak in terms of mental health curriculum. I know that I had heard in the past, perhaps it was just last year or so, that there had been a pilot done at Melissa Jones with the support of the Women and Family Life Center, I believe it was. And I certainly do feel very positively about the work that our social workers do in the schools. And for this, and in particular this year, have been so deeply impressed with the staff at Baldwin and at Cox in terms of how positive they are focused with the students and emotionally focused. But I think some people are aware of Guilford's pretty poor statistics in terms of adolescent suicide attempts. And just we have a fantastic town and a fantastic education, a public education here, but there's also a good degree of mental health concerns and for adolescents. And then I think when you add on to that, what we have going on with the pandemic now and the statistics that are coming out are really quite frightening and also in some regards not surprising in terms of the CDC saying a 40% increase in mental health concerns, in substance use concerns just now. And, you know, we all know that we have months and months more of this to go, and we have the winter to go through. And my own children are certainly, I've seen the incredible positive change in them that they can go to school in person. But, you know, that's probably not going to continue the entire year, or hopefully at least we can continue with 2 days. But I just wanted to encourage also that more funds would be put toward either additional social workers, additional professional development for teachers, because they're not experts in this, certainly, but they teach the children. I'm at 3 minutes?
You have 20 seconds.
Thank you. But I know that in the past, the administration has spoken to the board about the need for more professional development for social workers. And if that is where we were in the past, we really need to, you know, focus on that and add to that. And I know scheduling is somewhat of an issue, of course, there too, across the district. I just encourage more work in that way. You know, New York State has made it a state requirement in terms of mental health curriculum.
3 minutes.
I encourage that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
There is no one else in the queue, so this is the last opportunity for people to address the board. All right, Mr. Sands, I'm not seeing anyone in addition. We certainly thank those people who did speak. I will turn it over to Mr. Sands. I think we can adjourn.
Okay. I appreciate the input we got. We covered several interesting subjects. Let me just outline for the benefit of the community. This is the very beginning of the budget process for the Board of Ed. We will be meeting, for example, next week with the district leadership team and beginning to understand what their priorities are. we will meet with various other groups within the school organization. And we will probably have a draft budget for discussion in January. But we continue to support people who have ideas or comments. They should send them to us as emails. And we would be very happy to consider them, because we've got, there's a long process here to develop the budget, but we very much appreciate input from parents and other constituents here in Guilford. So if there's nobody else in the queue, I guess we should adjourn the meeting.
So I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, can I get a second on that?
Moira seconded that.
Moira, seconded.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye. Looks like
Okay,
we have
it
everyone.
looks like we have unanimous on that. So I would declare the meeting adjourned.